I can't find it good. I wanted to work Alf in there somehow. I had it and I lost it. It's the one, the only David Richard. Good morning, Dave. It's David Jason. How are ye?
What's up, Jason? And hey, Dave, I know you're a popular guy, but if John Daly came back and held a parade in his hometown, wouldn't he be the Carmichael fave?
Look at him.
Wow.
See, look at what he did. That's the second week in a row he's done research. He brings in a pun. That is true. John Daly, few people know that, actually born in Carmichael. Just like a lot of people don't realize Aaron Judge, born in Sacramento. Yeah. But I don't think John claims Carmichael, if you will, David.
So, that's too bad.
Yeah, he'd still be the Carmichael fave, as he said.
I'll tell you who the Carmichael fave probably is. Molly Ringwald.
Oh, okay.
Actress of the 80s, and all the Breakfast Club and Pretty in Pink and all that. Yeah. Rio Americano High School graduate, same as me. So there you go. There's your Carmichael fave.
Who cares about her? We got you.
Wow.
Yeah. Shade at Molly.
I didn't have Molly Ringwald.
I mean, what has she done? What has she done? Much less for Northern California, but for the world.
Great point.
The 80s.
She showed everybody how to put lipstick on with her cleavage.
Wow. Okay, I think you could do that too.
You know what? The more I eat the way I've been eating, the closer I get. Speaking of cleavage, fantasy football, week 3. There's no transition there, dude. Everyone's all over Cam Akers going to Alexander Madison's world. They're all over Kareem Hunt going to what's his face, the guy I like with the Browns.
Jerome Ford.
Jerome Ford, thank you. But Chubb's former world. Who is your big which one of these people this week do you go, oh man, I hope you got him on the waiver wire?
Well, I think Jerome Ford is the right answer here because every indication out of Cleveland is that he will be their main running back, not just this week, but for as long as he plays moderately well. And he's a good running back. He's fast. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can make guys miss. He can pass protect. He just never really got the chance to play meaningful snaps because, Nick Chubb was there, and Nick Chubb is like one of the best running backs in the league right now. It stinks that he's not playing. Yeah. But I think Ford's going to be given the opportunity to be the main running back in Cleveland. Don't like his matchup this week against Tennessee. Don't like his matchup next week against Baltimore. And then he's got a bye in week 5. So you might have to play the waiting game a little bit if you added Jerome Ford off the waiver wire. Or if you missed Jerome Ford and someone else got him, there might be an opportunity to trade for him in like a week or two. So I think that he's the guy that's got the most long-term appeal of everybody that we've talked about on the Browns and on the Vikings. That Vikings offense, to me, Alexander Madison, Cam Akers, same guy. Yeah. They don't make guys miss. They're not great in the passing game. They're both physical. In the case of Akers, he's got more injuries than Madison does. And this is a Vikings team that throws the ball almost 80% of the time. I said 80, Dave. 80% of the time through the first 2 weeks of the season. It almost doesn't matter who your running back is. If your quarterback is throwing that much, the running back isn't getting a lot of numbers.
Dave, 2 weeks certainly wouldn't be a time to panic for fantasy owners, but I'm wondering in all your research at looking at people that likely were drafted high enough and that are being played for the first couple of weeks, is there anybody you're worried about at this point?
I think you've got to be worried about Dameon Pierce in Houston, just the fact that his offensive line has fallen apart. And this offense, listen, a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're trailing big in games because their defense isn't very good, but they're throwing a lot. And C.J. Stroud actually looks pretty good throwing the football. It's making Dameon Pierce not get as many carries. He's not playing as many snaps as I thought he was going to get. I do think eventually the coaching staff is going to say, look, he's our best runner. When he does have space, he looks good. And eventually the offensive line will be fine. So I think Dameon Pierce is somebody that fantasy managers drafted, and they might get impatient with him and cut him. I wouldn't do that. I think that there's a possibility that he ends up helping you out starting in the middle of the season. And fantasy managers are also very nervous about Najee Harris in Pittsburgh. He was a top 50 pick in pretty much every single draft. The first 2 weeks, he's looked absolutely dreadful. This is the telltale week for me. They're going on the road against Las Vegas. The Raiders' run defense has not looked great. This is a huge opportunity, no pun intended, for Najee Harris to go out and find the end zone, maybe pick up 60 or 70 yards on top of it. I like him as a number 2 running back this week, but if he doesn't perform this week, or if he gets outplayed by Jaylen Warren, we could have some significant changes for how we view Najee Harris moving forward.
Dave Richard joining us, CBS Sports. I'm sure Bijan Robinson owners are simultaneously happy and frustrated because I've seen articles from respected people that say he might be the best running back in the NFL right now, but he's got this other guy that's stealing carries and touchdowns that, oh, by the way, was a 1,000-yard rusher last year as well as a rookie. Do you see that being an issue all year long, or do you see a possibility eventually the Falcons just land on the guy they drafted in the first round?
It's an issue like having a hangnail is an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when you have a hangnail, you want to get rid of it as fast as you can, and you don't want to like peel it off all the way because then you might like get down to like the middle of the skin. You might get an infection from it, and that sucks even more. So you kind of have to live with the hangnail until you can get yourself in front of a pair of clippers. That's what it feels like, because we're still seeing Bijan Robinson last week, almost 30 PPR points. No, I'm looking at Brian Robinson. Bijan Robinson, over 20 fantasy points. This is what I meant to say.
Yes.
Each of the last 2 weeks, he's come through big time for fantasy managers. There's absolutely no reason in the world for Bijan Robinson managers to be upset over Tyler Algier being there when they're still getting huge numbers from Bijan Robinson. Now, if things were to change and Robinson struggles a little bit and the Falcons say, all right, we're putting too much on the rookie's plate, let's let Tyler Algier run wild, that would stink. But I also think that's not very likely to happen. I think Bijan's a terrific running back. I think the Falcons were smart to draft him. They're clearly using their run game as much as they possibly can. I think it's going to continue. And it wouldn't surprise me if Bijan Robinson had 10 games this year with 20-plus PPR points. That's why you took him in round one. He's going to deliver.
Dave, I know it's all contingent on who your other quarterbacks are, but just in your personal fantasy rankings, where do you have Brock Purdy?
This week I had him at 19, which was a little low. Rest of season, I think he'll probably be in that same type of range where fantasy, like here's the book on Brock Purdy. If last week's, he threw a pass to Debo last week that he took for a screen for a touchdown. You guys remember that play, right?
Yeah.
If that play had counted as a pass, he would have had, I think it would have been his 7th straight regular season game with at least 20 fantasy points. And then last night against the Giants would have been 8. So it's almost like when you start him, you get 20 fantasy points every week. You just count on it. And then some weeks he does even better than that, like he did last night against the Giants. But he doesn't have that crazy ceiling where he's going to, Patrick Mahomes it and get 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. I don't think the 49ers are expecting him to be that guy. So I like him as a bye week replacement quarterback, a number 2 fantasy quarterback, but he doesn't quite have the upside to say, all right, he's my starter. I can move on from Deshaun Watson or Justin Fields. This is the guy that I want to have piloting my fantasy team. I don't think we're there yet, and I don't know if we ever will be with Purdy.
Dave Richard, CBS Sports. I didn't expect to see this question come through. CJ Stroud or Derek Carr this weekend?
Wow.
It's people are starting to get desperate, and I bet they wish they had started Brock Purdy. I know that I wish I had ranked Purdy ahead of him, and I did. I go Carr against Green Bay. It's not an easy matchup, but I think he's just got a little bit more potential to hit that 300-yard mark and maybe find a couple of touchdowns without the turnovers. I think the turnovers are what's really been hurting C.J. Stroud more than anything.
Dave, where can people who want to just, we only have a few minutes together each week, but they want the whole Dave Richard package. Where can they see Jesus? Where can they see, read, and hear that?
Speaking of cleavage, I would tell them to go to Twitter or X or whatever it's called today, at Dave Richard there, and just use Google, man. Search for Dave Richard Fantasy Football, and all my articles, all my stuff will pop up, and it'll help you win your leagues, man. That's what we do at CBS Sports. Our podcast, Fantasy Football Today, we record every day to help you win your fantasy football leagues, and it costs nothing, right? Googling costs nothing.
No. And
going to CBS Sports and reading our articles costs nothing.
No.
I think X is eventually going to cost something.
That's what they say. That I ain't paying for it till I pay for it.
Yeah,
probably.
exactly.
But yeah. Hey, after the buzzer, this is a good one, by the way.
Yeah.
Raheem Mostert or Breece Hall?
Mostert this week.
Okay.
He's a top 8 fantasy running back for me this week against the Broncos. I think he slices and dices.
Slices and dices just like you do each and every week. We appreciate you as always, friend. Good luck this weekend. Good luck to your Canes. I know you'll be rooting for my Knowles and Clemson, and we'll talk.
Sure.
we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, buddy.
You got it. Take it easy, guys.
Thank you.
You too. That is Dave Richard.